Hello, second video of the day. I published one earlier from my home before I left, which I've never done before. And that was at Edry's recommendation of a constitutional republic versus a democracy, and what our founding fathers really had in mind compared to what we're living in now. But that segues very well into this one. And so in this series of Unlearning Yourself, this is number 11. And I stopped on the way to work and I got coffee and drinks for the people who wanted them. And I went through Starbucks, and I don't normally go through Starbucks. And I had to laugh because we were talking about the confusion of language. And so a small, if you order a small, they call it a tall. Now that's quite a contradiction. If you get a medium, they call it a grande. Now in most languages, grande means big or large. And then if you get a large, you get a venti. And so it's very confusing. And we were talking, and I've never met a person yet that doesn't find that confusing. In fact, I think probably the employees find it confusing and have to just keep memorizing how they do stuff. So that's called subversion of language when that's done. It's taking and it's strategically using words to kind of change ideas. And so in that case, they're trying to make that sound a little more special. So you're getting a little more flair, a little more this, a little more that. It's all sort of like tiny little innuendos toward what they want to steer you toward. And what I want to talk about on this video is something I think most people aren't aware of, or they're not aware of it completely, like it hasn't been brought forward in your consciousness. But you are in World War III. People think, well, when World War III comes, it's going to be mass bombing, it's going to be nuclear weapons, and that's not that they wouldn't still do that. That's, not off the table, I'm sure. But actually, if I wanted to go about ending the world as it exists today, I would use artificial intelligence, and I would use social media and the media in general. All normal media stations are what's called legacy media. They're owned by families, and those families dictate what can and can't be presented on the news. So if you're watching your major networks, if you're watching three-letter networks, anything like that, those are legacy media. No matter which one you prefer, well, this one's Democratic, this one's Republican, it's all the same thing. You're just hearing a different version of the same story, and it's all being used to divide. So if I take you as an individual and I keep making you feel isolated, I keep making you feel like no one is like you. And folks, no one's supposed to be like you. You're supposed to be an individual. This whole thing of growing up is meant to be that you get a certain age and you realize you don't have to be part of a group. You don't need to be accepted by a group. You need to be you. That's what you came here to do. And so they push you to feeling isolated and like there's something wrong with you, or there's something wrong with your beliefs, or you're judged, and they get everybody judging each other, fighting with each other, causing conflict, causing internal conflict for a person and external conflict for a person, internal conflict for groups, external conflict for groups. And that's what, like I've mentioned before, divide and conquer. If I keep you separated, you can't figure all this stuff out. If you don't stop long enough to go inward and say to yourself, how did my story get created? You're not really going to know who you are. You're not going to really know your truth. If you don't know your truth, I can manipulate you. Fortunately, I'm not a person who's into manipulating people, but there are people on this planet, the 1% of bloodlines, that want to control things and always have, and they don't want to lose that control. So there's a big push right now that they've got to get people where they want them. They know people are figuring this out. They know people like me are on the planet that have figured this out, and that we are sharing that information with other people to figure out who they are, figure out what is true and what is not true. And the systems that you live in, that I exist in as well, are all meant to be temporary. They're not meant to last. And they're all caving in, exploding, imploding, whatever you want to call it right now, and they will. They're meant to, so that a new system can be brought in. And that system is not going to be delightful if they get their way. So every system you're used to, government, medicine, banking, geopolitical, political, everything, all of that is meant to end. It was created to end, and it can be controlled. If something can be controlled, it can begin and end. When you have mankind, controlling other people, other humans, no good ever comes of it. People need to learn to control themselves. You need to decide who and what you are, what you will and won't do. What levels would you go to protect yourself and your family? What do you believe and don't you believe? How educated are you about what can be done? Right now, with my videotaping this, I put myself in danger of artificial intelligence coming in, tracking my voice, tracking every word I'm saying, tracking my image, and it can then turn around and create images of me saying things I've never said. I could be condemned by that. You have to decide as an individual human, where are you going to go as this goes forward? What will you do? Will you eat the artificial foods that they're going to supply you? Will you take the, medicines that they're providing you? Are you willing to desecrate your body and not trust how you were created? All these things have to be decided by each individual person. So way back at the beginning of this series of videos, I told you about the difference between your ego, which is your brain, and it's just equipment operating this meat suit, and your soul, which resides in your heart, the real you, the eternal you. So what you need to do is take a deep look at what you believe. And if what you believe always is based on what someone else says, what someone else shows you, and not what you truly know to be true, then it's probably false. And I think most people have been conditioned or trained to always look outside of themselves for truth instead of turning inward. So I would really encourage you to start turning inward in a very serious way, not scared, not out of your mind crazy because everything blows up and then you try and figure it out. Find peaceful moments. Find time to be really listening to your fellow human being. We all have so much more in common than we have that's not in common. You're having everything pointed out to you that's different from you, or how you're different from other people. You have more in common with everyone else than you think. Stop and take a look at it and start loving yourself. You cannot love another human being until you love yourself. I personally am sending you massive amounts of love. Let's all start turning this thing around and seeing it for what it really is, and being our true selves, loving, caring, kind humans. I thank you.